It was a bright Saturday morning, and the sun streamed through the lace curtains of our cozy suburban home, casting delicate patterns on the hardwood floor. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee wafted through the air as I stood in the kitchen, preparing breakfast for my family. My life, by all outward appearances, was perfect. I watched James, my husband, as he sat at the dining table, engrossed in the morning paper. His dark hair was tousled from sleep, and his handsome face was set in a focused expression. He looked up and caught me staring, a warm smile spreading across his face. "Good morning, beautiful," he said, his voice rich and comforting. "What's on the menu today?" "I was thinking you, but we can have pancakes, your favorite," I replied, my heart swelling with affection as I flirted. James always knew how to make me feel loved, even after 12 years of marriage. Our two children, Emma and Liam, bounded down the stairs, their laughter filling the house. Emma, with her long blonde hair and bright blue eyes, was a spitting image of me. Liam, on the other hand, had inherited James's dark hair and serious demeanor, though his eyes sparkled with mischief. "Mommy, can I help with the pancakes?" Emma asked, her eyes wide with excitement. "Of course, sweetheart," I said, handing her a whisk. "Let's make this breakfast extra special." We spent the next hour in the kitchen, flipping pancakes and laughing together. It was moments like these that made me believe I was living the perfect life. Our family was happy, our home was warm and inviting, and everything seemed just right. Later that afternoon, my best friend Sarah dropped by for our usual weekend catch-up. Sarah and I had been inseparable since college, and she was like a sister to me. Her visits were always a highlight of my week. "Emily, you look radiant today," Sarah said, hugging me tightly. "What's your secret?" "Just the usual chaos of family life," I laughed, gesturing towards the living room where James was playing with the kids. "How about you? How's work going?" Sarah sighed, sinking into the couch. "Busy as ever, but enough about me. Tell me, how's everything with you and James?" "We're good," I said, smiling. "He's been really supportive, especially with the kids and my work at school." Sarah raised an eyebrow, a mischievous glint in her eye. "Supportive, huh? Does that include foot rubs and surprise date nights?" I blushed, swatting her playfully. "Maybe. He's been great, honestly. I couldn't ask for a better partner." As the evening approached, I felt a sense of contentment wash over me. We gathered around the dinner table, sharing stories and laughter. James was his usual charming self, making everyone laugh with his witty remarks. Emma and Liam were engrossed in their own world, chattering excitedly about their school projects. After dinner, I decided to tidy up the kitchen while James put the kids to bed. It was a quiet, reflective moment for me. I marveled at how seamlessly our lives had fallen into place. The kids were thriving, James's career was flourishing, and I was happy in my role as a teacher. But then, as I was wiping down the counter, James's phone buzzed on the table. Absent-mindedly, I glanced at the screen and saw a message notification. It was a simple, everyday occurrence. Yet something compelled me to pick up the phone. I hesitated for a moment, feeling a strange pang of guilt, but curiosity got the better of me, and I opened the message. My heart stopped as I read the words on the screen. "Can't wait to see you tonight. Miss you so much." The message was from an unknown number, and my mind raced with a million questions. Who was this person? What did they mean? My hands trembled as I put the phone back down, my heart pounding in my chest. James walked into the kitchen, oblivious to the storm brewing inside me. "Kids are finally asleep," he said, wrapping his arms around me. "Want to watch a movie?" I forced a smile, my mind still reeling from what I had just seen. "Sure, that sounds great." As we settled on the couch, my thoughts were consumed by the message on his phone. My perfect life suddenly felt like a facade, and I couldn't shake the feeling that everything I knew was about to change. The days that followed were a blur of routine and rising anxiety. Every time James's phone buzzed, my heart would skip a beat. I couldn't bring myself to confront him, not yet. Instead, I tried to keep my composure, though it felt like I was living in a fragile glass bubble that could shatter at any moment. One afternoon, While grading papers in my classroom, I found myself staring blankly at a student's essay. My mind was elsewhere, haunted by the message I'd read on James's phone. I needed to talk to someone, and there was only one person I could trust. That evening, Sarah came over again, sensing my distress immediately. We sat on the porch, the cool evening breeze rustling the leaves around us. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my nerves. "Sarah," I began, my voice trembling, "I need to tell you something." She looked at me with concern, her brows furrowing. "What's wrong, Emily?" I hesitated, then blurted out, "I found a message on James's phone. Someone said they couldn't wait to see him and missed him. I don't know what to do." Sarah's eyes widened with shock. "Oh, Emily, I'm so sorry. Did you confront him?" I shook my head, tears welling up. "No, I'm scared. What if it's true? What if he's been cheating on me all this time?" Sarah reached out and squeezed my hand. "You deserve to know the truth no matter how painful it is. Have you thought about hiring someone to look into it? A private investigator, maybe?" The idea hadn't crossed my mind, but now it seemed like the only way forward. "Do you really think that's necessary?" "I do," Sarah said firmly. "You need to know for sure. I can help you find someone. You don't have to go through this alone." The next day, Sarah put me in touch with Mark Thompson, a private investigator she knew. Meeting him felt surreal, like something out of a crime novel. We sat in a small, dimly lit office, the air thick with tension. "Mrs. Parker," Mark began, his voice steady and professional. "I understand this is a difficult situation. I'll do my best to find out what's going on." I nodded, my throat tight. "Thank you, Mr. Thompson. I just need to know the truth." Mark nodded and took notes as I recounted the details. His calm demeanor was reassuring, but the gravity of what I was doing weighed heavily on me. The days turned into weeks as Mark conducted his investigation. Each day was an agonizing wait, filled with a gnawing uncertainty. James seemed oblivious to my turmoil, carrying on with his usual charm and attentiveness. It made the situation even harder to bear. One evening, as I was preparing dinner, Mark called. His voice was somber. "Mrs. Parker, I have some information. Can we meet tomorrow?" My heart sank. "Of course. Where should we meet?" "At my office. I think it's best if we discuss this in person." The next day, I sat in Mark's office once again, my palms sweaty with anticipation. Mark looked at me with a mixture of empathy and professionalism. "Emily," he said softly, "I've uncovered some troubling information. James has been seeing someone for the past 3 years. They have a child together, and he's been supporting them financially." I felt like the ground had been pulled out from under me. My perfect life, my perfect marriage, was all a lie. Tears streamed down my face as I struggled to comprehend the betrayal. "Are you sure?" I whispered, my voice barely audible. Mark nodded. "I'm sorry, Emily. I've gathered enough evidence to be certain. I know this is devastating, but you needed to know the truth." Leaving Mark's office, I felt numb. The drive home was a blur, my mind racing with thoughts of betrayal and heartbreak. How could James do this to me, to our family? That night, as James and the kids slept peacefully, I sat alone in the living room. The evidence Mark had given me spread out on the coffee table. Photos, financial records, messages, all pointing to a double life I had been blissfully unaware of. I knew I couldn't keep this to myself any longer. The truth was out, and I had to decide what to do next. Confronting James would mean shattering our family's stability, but staying silent would mean living a lie. I took a deep breath, trying to summon the courage I needed. The decision ahead was daunting, and the consequences would be far-reaching. But one thing was clear: my life would never be the same again. The morning after Mark's revelation, I could barely hold myself together. I moved through the motions of preparing breakfast, my hands shaking as I poured cereal into bowls for Emma and Liam. James sat at the table reading his paper, completely unaware of the storm brewing within me. "Good morning, everyone," he said cheerfully, looking up with a smile that now felt like a mockery of everything I believed in. "Anything special planned for today?" I forced a smile, my voice trembling slightly. "Just the usual, taking the kids to their activities." We need to talk later, James. He glanced at me, sensing the seriousness in my tone. Of course, Emily. Everything okay? I nodded, unable to meet his eyes. Later. The day dragged on painfully. Each hour felt like an eternity as I waited for the right moment to confront him. When the kids were finally in bed, I sat in the living room, staring at the evidence spread out on the coffee table, my mind racing with how to start this conversation. James walked in, a concerned look on his face. Emily, what's going on? You've been acting strange all day. I took a deep breath, my heart pounding in my chest. James, we need to talk. Sit down. He sat across from me, his eyes searching mine. What is it? You're scaring me. I pushed the photos and documents towards him, my hands trembling. Explain this. He looked down at the evidence, his face paling. For a moment he said nothing, the silence between us growing unbearable. Emily, he began, his voice shaky. I can explain. Explain? I said, my voice rising. You've been living a double life, James. You have another family. How could you do this to us? He looked defeated, his shoulders slumping. I never meant for it to go this far. It started as a mistake, and I didn't know how to stop. I'm so sorry. Sorry? I shouted, tears streaming down my face. You've been lying to me for years, to our children. Do you have any idea what this has done to me? James reached out to touch my hand, but I pulled away, recoiling from his touch. Emily, please. I love you and the kids. I never wanted to hurt you. I stood up, my anger boiling over. You love us? Is that why you've been spending nights with another woman, raising another child? How could you betray us like this? He buried his face in his hands, his voice breaking. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. But please, for the sake of our family, can we find a way to work through this? I shook my head, the weight of his betrayal pressing down on me. Work through this? How can I ever trust you again? You've destroyed everything we had. The room fell silent, the gravity of the situation sinking in. I felt exhausted, drained from the confrontation. James looked up, his eyes filled with desperation. Emily, I'll do anything to make this right. Just give me a chance. I looked at him, the man I had loved for so many years. Now a stranger. I don't know if I can, James. I need time to think. He nodded, tears in his eyes. Take all the time you need. I'll do whatever it takes to fix this. As I walked away, my mind was a whirlwind of emotions. The man I thought I knew had betrayed me in the worst possible way, and now I was left to pick up the pieces of my shattered life. The decision ahead was monumental, and I wasn't sure if our family could ever recover from this. The next few days were a blur of confusion and heartache. I confided in Sarah, seeking her support. She listened patiently, offering her shoulder to cry on. You need to do what's best for you and the kids, Emily, she said softly. Take your time to figure out what that is. I nodded, appreciating her support. But deep down, I felt an overwhelming sense of loss and betrayal. My perfect life had been a facade, and now I was left to navigate the wreckage. James continued to try and reach out, his attempts to apologize and make amends only adding to my inner turmoil. Each conversation was a painful reminder of the life I thought I had, now shattered beyond repair. One evening, as I sat alone in the living room, I looked at the family photos on the wall, memories of happier times. The decision I had to make loomed over me like a dark cloud, and I knew that whatever path I chose, my life would never be the same again. The days dragged on, each one more unbearable than the last. James's apologies became a daily ritual, but they felt empty, like trying to heal a wound with a whisper. I spent countless nights awake, staring at the ceiling, my mind a maze of conflicting emotions. The image of James with another family haunted me, and every memory we shared now felt tainted. Sarah was my rock during this time. We spent hours talking, her presence a small comfort in the chaos. One evening, as we sat on my porch, sipping tea, I confided in her once more. I don't know what to do, Sarah. Part of me wants to try and forgive him for the sake of the kids, but another part of me can't get past the betrayal. Sarah sighed, her eyes filled with empathy. "Emily, you need to do what's right for you. If you stay with him out of obligation, it'll only eat away at you." "I know," I whispered, staring into my tea, "but it's so hard. I never imagined this would be my life." As we sat in silence, the weight of my decision pressing down on me, an idea began to form. Maybe the only way to truly move forward was to confront the situation head-on, to expose James's infidelity and let the chips fall where they may. It was a terrifying thought, but perhaps the truth needed to come out. The next day, I called Mark and asked him to meet me at a quiet cafe downtown. When he arrived, his expression was one of concern and understanding. "Emily, what can I do for you?" he asked, sitting down across from me. "I need to expose James's infidelity," I said, my voice firm despite my trembling hands. "I can't keep living in this lie. I need to confront him publicly." Mark nodded slowly. "Are you sure about this? It's a big step, and it will have serious repercussions." "I'm sure," I replied. "I need to do this for myself and for my children. They deserve to know the truth." Mark agreed to help me, and we spent the next few days preparing. I gathered all the evidence, ready to face the storm that was coming. The night before the confrontation, I could barely sleep, my mind a whirlwind of anxiety and fear. Finally, the day arrived. I had arranged a family meeting, telling James it was important. As we sat in the living room, the air heavy with tension, I took a deep breath and began. "James, there's something I need to say. Something that can't wait any longer." He looked at me, his expression wary. "What is it, Emily?" I stood up, holding the folder with all the evidence. "I know about your other family. I know everything." His face went white, and he opened his mouth to speak, but I held up a hand to stop him. "No, let me finish. I've been living in this nightmare for weeks, trying to decide what to do, but the truth needs to come out." I turned to the kids, who were watching with wide eyes. "Emma, Liam, I'm so sorry you have to hear this, but your father has been living a double life. He has another family, and he's been lying to us for years." The room fell silent, the weight of my words sinking in. Emma burst into tears, and Liam's face twisted in confusion and anger. James looked devastated, his eyes pleading with me. "Emily, please, let's talk about this privately," he begged. "No," I said firmly. "We're done with secrets. This is the truth, and it needs to be out in the open." As the kids cried and James tried to console them, I felt a strange sense of relief. The truth was finally out, and there was no going back. Later that night, after the initial shock had worn off, I sat with Sarah recounting the confrontation. She listened intently, her expression supportive. "You did the right thing, Emily," she said softly. "It's going to be hard, but you're strong. You'll get through this." Just as I was beginning to feel a glimmer of hope, my phone buzzed with a message. It was from an unknown number. Frowning, I opened it, and my blood ran cold. "Stop pretending you're innocent, Sarah. We both know the truth." I looked up at Sarah, my heart pounding. "What is this?" She looked confused, then her face fell. "Emily, I need to tell you something." My stomach churned as she began to speak. "I knew about James's other family. I've known for a while. I was trying to protect you, but I made a mistake. I blackmailed him, hoping he'd come clean on his own. I'm so sorry." I stared at her, feeling like the ground had been pulled out from under me once again. "You what? You knew and you didn't tell me?" Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "I thought I was doing the right thing, but I see now how wrong I was. Please, forgive me." I couldn't speak, the betrayal cutting deeper than any wound. My best friend, the person I trusted most, had been complicit in James's deceit. The room spun, and I felt like I couldn't breathe. "Get out!" I whispered, my voice shaking. "I can't look at you right now." Sarah left, her shoulders slumped in defeat. I sat alone in the living room, the weight of both betrayals crushing me. The truth was out, but it had come at a devastating cost. As I stared at the empty room, I realized that the only person I could rely on was myself. It was time to rebuild, to find a way forward on my own terms. The path ahead was uncertain, But for the first time, I felt a spark of strength within me. I would get through this, one step at a time. The weeks following the confrontation were a blur of emotional turbulence and painful adjustments. The house felt emptier, the silence heavier. James moved out to give us space, leaving me to pick up the pieces of our shattered family. Every corner of the house held memories, now tainted by betrayal. One morning, as the early sunlight streamed through the kitchen window, I sat with a cup of coffee, the warmth of the mug a small comfort. Emma and Liam were still asleep, their little faces peaceful for now. I knew the storm of emotions they would face each day was just as fierce as mine. I had avoided Sarah since the night she confessed, unable to process the dual betrayals. The woman I had trusted with my deepest secrets had been complicit in the lies that destroyed my family. I felt a pang of loneliness, but knew I had to move forward. As I walked into the school where I taught, I felt a semblance of normalcy. My colleagues greeted me with kind smiles, though their eyes held a mix of sympathy and curiosity. I put on a brave face, but inside, I felt like I was drowning. One day, after classes, I received a call from James. His voice was tentative, almost broken. "Emily, can we meet? I want to talk," he said. I hesitated, the wound still fresh. "I don't know, James. There's so much to process. Please," he pleaded. "I need to explain, to try and make things right." Reluctantly, I agreed. We met at a small cafe downtown, the same place where I had first realized how deeply I was in love with him years ago. The irony wasn't lost on me. James looked tired, the weight of his actions evident in his eyes. "Emily, I've been seeing a therapist, trying to understand why I did what I did. There's no excuse for my behavior, but I want to be better, for our kids, and for myself." I nodded, feeling a mix of anger and pity. "I appreciate that, James, but it's not just about you anymore. The kids are hurt. I'm hurt. This isn't something that can be fixed overnight." He reached out, his hand trembling. "I know, but I want to be a part of their lives, to show them I'm still their father, despite my mistakes." I sighed, the enormity of the situation pressing down on me. "It's going to take time, James. We'll need to set boundaries, and you'll have to earn back their trust." We talked for hours, laying out a plan for co-parenting and trying to navigate the new dynamics of our relationship. It was painful, but necessary. I could see he was genuinely trying, but the road ahead was long. At home, I focused on the kids, trying to create a sense of stability amidst the chaos. Emma and Liam were resilient, but the cracks were there. I spent nights comforting them, answering their questions with as much honesty as I could manage. One evening, while tucking Liam into bed, he looked up at me with wide, questioning eyes. "Mom, is Dad ever coming home?" I swallowed hard, my heart aching. "No, sweetheart, he's not coming back to live with us, but he's still your dad, and he loves you very much. We'll figure this out together." He nodded, his small hand clutching mine. "Okay, Mom. I love you. I love you too, Liam," I whispered, kissing his forehead, "always." As the days turned into weeks, I began to find a new rhythm. The initial shock and pain started to dull, replaced by a determination to rebuild. I reconnected with old friends, started a new hobby, and focused on my career. Teaching brought me a sense of purpose, a way to channel my energy positively. One afternoon, as I was grading papers, Sarah showed up at my door. I hesitated, but then opened it, not ready to face her but knowing it was inevitable. "Emily, I'm so sorry," she began, tears streaming down her face. "I don't expect you to forgive me, but I needed to see you, to apologize again." I took a deep breath, feeling a mix of anger and sadness. "Sarah, what you did hurt me deeply. I trusted you, and you betrayed that trust." She nodded, her expression one of genuine remorse. "I know, and I'll regret it for the rest of my life. If you ever find it in your heart to forgive me, I'll be here. But if not, I understand." We stood in silence for a moment, the weight of our shared history pressing down on us. Finally, I spoke. "It's going to take time, Sarah. I don't know if I can ever fully trust you again. but I appreciate your apology." She nodded, wiping her tears. "Thank you, Emily. I hope someday we can find a way to move forward." As she left, I felt a sense of closure. The path to healing was long and uncertain, but I was no longer alone. I had my children, my career, and most importantly, a newfound strength within myself. The months passed, and life slowly began to settle into a new normal. The kids adjusted to the changes, and James and I found a way to co-parent amicably. The scars of betrayal would always be there, but they no longer defined me. One evening, as I sat on the porch, watching the sunset, I felt a sense of peace. The journey had been painful, but it had also made me stronger. I was ready to face whatever came next, with my head held high and my heart open to new possibilities. The perfect facade was gone, but in its place was something more real, more resilient, and for the first time in a long time, I felt truly hopeful for the future.